Ipswich Town League action is back. The Championship is back. I'm back. Jens Kajusty is back. Tom Brady is a quarterback. The Blue Monday Prematch Show is back. And Rich and Seb are on holiday. Hello and welcome to the first Blue Monday Prematch Show of the season. Up first, we have Birmingham City, and who better than to bring us up to speed on this week's opponents than EFL aficionado and Blue Monday podcast joint founder, Benjamin Bloom. This is Christmas. This is officially Christmas Eve for you, isn't it, Ben? Or is that the night before the playoffs start?
Yeah, all of it. Who better to do this? Seb.
It was a rhetorical question.
I know, I just gave you the honest answer, but no, it's brilliant. We're really, really excited. And one in the door. Here's my challenge to Ipswich Town. Can you hijack this preview podcast and turn it into a Tuba Akpom joins Ipswich podcast? So chat, I can see you're all here. Someone keep half an eye on Twitter, Mikey, because, I don't know, Mikey doesn't believe it's going to happen, but we could have fireworks in the next hour.
I believe it's going to happen. I don't think it's going to happen in the next hour, Ben. But
okay, fair enough.
Yeah, Father Christmas is coming tonight. It's just we're probably opening the presents tomorrow morning. But yeah, as you've alluded to, Ben, Jens Kajusty, a lot of people believed it couldn't happen at the end of last season, Ben. But it has happened, despite some interest from clubs from Premier divisions around Europe, if social media is correct. I spoke about him actually, Ben. I was probably the most critical about Jens Kajusty last season because I think
Joe went in once or twice, didn't he?
Yeah, I think he's quite flawed in many ways. However, I expect him to be a standout player in the Championship. And I think he'll also be a better footballer after another year with Kieran McKenna. Where are you on this one, Ben?
A bit confused again because we've got this chasm, as I always refer to it in English football, between the Premier League and the Championship. And it is not beyond the realms of possibility that somebody we had on loan who didn't quite cut it in the Premier League could be extremely good in the Championship. So I'm just struggling a little bit to get my head around that. I know I'm kind of sarcastically ribbing you, but you weren't the only one to say, oh, is he all, last season? Is he all he's cracked up to be? But I think the thing I'm having trouble with is, how can you rate anybody based on last season and the difficulties, that we had? And I'm not just going to say this for every player we ever sign while Professor Kieran McKenna is the manager, but when he goes back for a player more than once, we've been proved wrong by him a fair few times, haven't we? I know there's been the odd Dane Scarlett and now a Calvin Phillips or what have you. But what is your take on this difficulty in judging Premier League, Championship? And is this another player who drops right in that chasm in the middle, in which case he's going to be great in the Championship?
Yeah, I'm not sure. And there's another tall midfielder, Ben, that sort of flitted between the Championship and the Premier League, who I'd like to draw as a comparison. Sander Berg, Ben. He went up to the Premier League, I think, with Burnley.
Well, he went up the first time with Sheffield United. And remember, they sold him. They basically sold him and Jai as soon as they went up, didn't they? So he looked an absolute Rolls Royce in the Championship.
Though. He did, and then he didn't look great in the Premier League, but then went back down to the Championship, matured a little bit more as a player, became slightly more complete, and now certainly looks the part at Fulham. And there's maybe two fair comparisons there. One, that Kajusty could become a better footballer after another year with Kieran McKenna and a year in the Championship being a bigger fish. But also, there's also a potential comparison there with the type of player as well. And he looks like he should suit the Championship with the physicality that he has, and he's going to tower over most midfielders in the Championship.
What's your take on the deal, mate? Because it's I don't know what we even call these. They're loans with obligations to buy. It feels just like a loan with a bonus at the end of it, doesn't it? When you factor in what the TV money is, it's almost like just a little kickback to the loaning club, and you retain them thereafter.
Yeah, you imagine that we're probably protected a little bit, Ben. So if he only makes 15 appearances this season, maybe it's not triggered and we don't have to sign him. Hopefully we don't end up in a position where at the end of the season, although it would mean that we're going up, that we're not playing him because we don't want to sign him. But you'd imagine it sort of feels like a win-win, doesn't it? Because if we're going into our second season in the Championship, we probably don't want those wages on the books the following season. But if we do go straight back up, that's a nice bit of business that we're getting done really early in the window, which, as we've found out in the past, makes a big difference. And it's been frustrating that this one's dragged on and on. We've ultimately got the player, but his pre-season now it's basically starting now. It's starting a month or so too late, isn't it?
But Mikey, he is a player who knows patterns of play and, could, and I will get on to tomorrow night, could, if needed, literally slot in at whatever point the professor decides. So there is that big benefit as well. This is not an unknown quantity, is it?
No, it's definitely not. And I think that's why we're pretty pleased about, despite even people like me that think he's slightly flawed, really pleased to have him in, because he knows exactly what Kieran McKenna is about and vice versa. And as you mentioned, the fact that Kieran McKenna wanted him so badly, that he's pursued him so often, just shows that he really is going to be the real deal for us in midfield this season in the Championship. And yeah, just a really positive bit of business, and one that seems to work well for both parties.
Yeah. And, we were all getting a little bit, I don't know, what's the word, impatient with this idea that, it's not just a case of padding out the squad and filling up the squad. It's getting the right people. And I've said a few times on here, Mikey, when you're a year one parachute team, you're far more tied in with the kind of Premier League schedule. They start a week later, and that last 3 days Premier League will spend into the hundreds of millions, and you're often downstream from that when you're a year one parachute team with your trading. And we'll still likely see Amari Hutchinson, Tyler Diblin, Fernandez maybe of Southampton, El Canouse and Hermansen at Leicester all be bid for by Premier League clubs, but they ain't going to do it until August the 25th, are they?
No, definitely not. And sorry, Ben, I'm rather than answering your question, I am going to. There's a couple of people in the chat asking what I mean by flawed, because that probably does seem quite insulting. I meant that I thought that he was maybe a little bit flawed in the Premier League for a player that was so highly regarded by the fans. I thought there were blind spots in his game. One of them being shooting. I think for a forward-thinking central midfielder, I thought his shooting was pretty poor, and he didn't look to get shots off. And when he did, they weren't normally particularly dangerous. I also thought that he was sometimes lacking defensively. I think he lacks a bit of defensive nous at times. But as you've said, we're quantifying this. This is in the Premier League, playing against some of the best midfields in the country, and he was playing in a double pivot with all respect to a 34-year-old midfielder who hadn't played at that level before. So yeah, it was slightly flawed in the Premier League, but I'm not calling him a flawed footballer in the Championship. Certainly not until I've at least seen him play. It's
all right, mate. I didn't even give a view, and I'm getting called negative as well.
Sorry, Ben. And someone's saying, what about the Forest game? Yeah, he did score obviously a fantastic bit of skill, and that's what he's good at. That goal he scored sums him up, but the finish, it was slightly deflected. It wasn't an incredible finish. So yeah, one good goal doesn't make him a goal scorer midfielder.
Yeah, and I hope he's fantastic. And by the way, for Jens Kajust, view a lot of our players that kind of fall into that gap between Premier League and Championship. And you could argue with that, but if you were right, I don't think we'd be doing a preview this week. We'd be doing one next week, because we'd still be in the Premier League if they're all up to stuff in the Premier League. That's just where we are. And you can get triggered by that, if you want, but that's the deal. And we're a club that's, gone double promotion from League One. And there's always going to be this kind of slow step up. And I went on a Birmingham podcast today, actually, and they made the comparison to 2 years ago. And you've got to be so happy when you look at what you're lining up with, this season compared to 2 years ago, your League One squad, as opposed to players that have been signed with the £100 million TV money. So, yeah, do keep it calm in the comments. We want it to work out. If you don't like realism, please tune out now, though. We'll try and tell you the truth, Mikey, won't we?
Yeah. And the other one you've already mentioned, Ben, Akpom, it could happen tonight. With your championship hat on, Ben, I think you were still working on the EFL show when Akpom was the leading goal scorer in the championship. How much have you seen of him? And presumably you're fairly excited about the potential for this one.
Well, I'm very excited, but can we also sign Joel Pirro so we can have the last 3 EFL Championship Golden Boot winners in our squad? Because obviously Smodic's won it not last season, the season before with Blackburn. Akpom was fantastic, and again, for fear of triggering emotionally weak people in the chat, the only slight worry is that was a hell of a jump he made when he went to Middlesbrough, and all of a sudden and it was Michael Carrick actually, turns him into, this kind of number 10 that was switched. And it's been a good chat with Sean and Kev, who are blogging for us now on Blue Monday Top Tier, about is he a 10 or is he a 9, or was he doing both and rotating with Cameron Archer? But the key points with Akpom and that 2/3 of a season under Michael Carrick where he won the Golden Boot was just vertical, quick transition football. There was Giles and Ramsey, Archer ahead of him switching, and he was the one, Akpom, that generally picked up the pocket. And, we're going to talk about Birmingham, Mikey, signing, quote, ready to go EFL Championship players. Well, if you're taking someone from Ajax, who was the Golden Boot winner a couple of years ago, then, we can be envious of some of the things Birmingham have done, but we're going to get some ridiculous claims. I think that if he's not signed in time, that's some kind of Machiavellian genius from the Birmingham owners. But I'm sure a lot of Championship teams, looking at what Akpom did in that season with Carrick and Borough, would very much like him in. But could he sign before 9 p.m, please, chat?
Yeah, please make it happen, chat. So, Ben, let's talk about Birmingham then. Cast your mind back a few weeks when the fixtures were being announced. I can't imagine Birmingham away was particularly high up on the list of teams you'd like to face on the opening day. In fact, probably right up there in the top of the teams you'd least like to play. Obviously, Norwich being one that we probably can't play on the opening day of the season. But yeah, this is a bit of a nightmare fixture for more than one reason, Ben.
Yeah, it's an absolute no-win situation. And I totally agree with your take that the one you really wouldn't want is you don't kind of want Norwich before everything's settled down. But the police and the algorithm of however the fixtures have selected are never going to put a big local derby on the first game of the season. So, yeah. And, people again will get triggered and say, oh, we have to fear nobody. But if you've got an ounce of humility, you'll understand this is an absolute no-win situation, because if we turn up there tomorrow and win, everyone says, oh, well, Birmingham are newly up from League One. They'll take some time to adjust. And Ipswich are a year one parachute team. And that's what we've got to deal with this season. If you don't win, you're a failure. And if we lose, it's going to be, oh, here come Birmingham. And, they've caught Ipswich with the 1-2 punch before they were expecting it. So, yeah, I think Preston at home would have been, something like that at nice, 3 p.m. on a Saturday would have been nice. And 2 things can be true, by the way. This could be the worst fixture on paper, and at the same time, we could also, be a side that should fear nobody. It is possible to hold 2 different thoughts in your brain at once in situations like these.
Yeah, I don't think I quite see it the same way as you, Ben. I see it as a nightmare fixture for more than one reason, though, the same as you. That one being the momentum, 2, it being Birmingham City just being pretty busy in the transfer window and look like they've really got themselves in a good position going into this season. But also just St Andrews on a Friday night. The fans will be baying for blood, and intimidating atmosphere. I know we've just come down from playing in these massive stadiums in the Premier League, but we won't have faced an atmosphere like what we're going to have at St Andrews on Friday night. Nothing like it in the Premier League. Certainly not against us. So yeah, a bit of a nightmare one. I wouldn't say we can't win, because I actually think winning this would be a real statement of intent, because Birmingham I think I've seen some EFL experts, Ben, touting Birmingham for a really good season on YouTube. And yeah, I think that winning this one would be a really good statement of intent. And obviously, as we learned a couple of years ago, you can't really afford to start slowly in this division if you want to go up automatically.
Yeah, not if it's going to be like the last two seasons. And I mean, you can make a argument that we'll return to sanity and we won't get three teams on 90 plus points and, losing one game in September or whatever is not going to be the biggest disaster ever. But no, I totally agree with you that it's going to be raucous and vociferous in a different way than a big Premier League away game would be. And I know people have views on the sanitisation of the Premier League. You don't get proper working class, loud, noisy, horrible atmospheres like at Birmingham. And look, they're not going to shut up. We can score within 90 seconds of this game, and they'll just go again, and they're just going to be noisy as hell. I think they won 44 games in all competitions last season. Obviously, scored 111 points. They're just very, very used to winning, and momentum is real, and it's a thing. And that's what we're going to have to go up against. I don't think we'll silence them. So just got to beat them on the pitch, I guess, is the real quiz.
Yeah, and yeah, no side has beaten Birmingham since March. Obviously, that isn't that long. I think, was it one win after Christmas or something like that, Ben? En route to promotion. You're in the Seb Brown chair, so I'm expecting you to have all of these stats right out in front of you. But I can tell you the last time we faced Birmingham City was at home in our victorious 2023-24 season, a 3-1 win, an entertaining game. At the time, Mark Venus was in temporary charge of Birmingham. What have they been up to since then, Ben? Has much happened in the blue half of Birmingham?
A hell of a lot's happened, and I mean, it's been absolute chaos right through that season. Can I just say a quick thank you to David, who's been a fantastic supporter with €10 on the super sticker, and he has also joined, as we're going to plug many, many times during this show, our new Blue Monday top tier, where we now have some extra shows, one of which is tomorrow, which we're going to plug in some extra blogs and what not. But no, it's been just absolute chaos. So obviously Knighthead came in to replace Trillian at the start of the season we got promoted. John Eustace had, I think, got them to like 17th or something, and done a really good job in complete chaos. Remember, half the stadium was closed and we didn't even know who Trillian were. You would, kind of trace it back to try and find out something about them. And we'd had points deductions for Birmingham previously a few years back when Harry Redknapp was in charge for a cup of tea, and they seemed to sign Brentford's entire squad for way over market value. We're actually the first EFL team to get diddled on the PSR and get the deduction there back in the 18-19 season. And then the chaos began when Knighthead, which is your right to do when you take over a club, decided that the excellent John Eustace would be replaced by the amazing player and not very great manager that is Wayne Rooney. He was there about 3 months, and they were a bit unlucky because they brought in Tony Mowbray, who then got ill very quickly. And I love Mark Venus. I'm sure you love Mark Venus. He's not a manager. He's a first team coach, and he's a right-hand man. And he was put in charge for quite a few games, and that didn't work. And then they tried Gary Rowett at the end of the season as a Hail Mary, and the rising tide took them down. But fair play, they went down, and it just went, right, here we go then. And very game changer, very Ipswich, taking a Chris Davies, who was a coach at Spurs, a kind of young, it's very Kieran McKenna, isn't it? And spending a shed load of cash. And you can be churlish about it and say, well, first place was kind of the expectation. But Mikey, they scored 111 points. That's very, basically, you're only losing a couple of games all season and you're winning nigh on every week. And whatever league you're in, however much money you've got, that is very, very difficult. So that's kind of the potted history. And those people that thought that we benefited from the momentum of winning in League One, which I agree with, I think we did, came into the Championship with a regimented pattern of play, a hot manager, and as you said, won 12 out of the first 13 games or something absurd, whatever it was. They are now, despite all the chaos in the first season under Knighthead, they're now, echoing a few things that we watched ourselves with our own eyes, Mikey.
Yeah, and I haven't seen an incredible amount of Birmingham City, but it was a competitive League One last season. There were some decent sides in there, and they just completely blew everyone apart. I think a lot of people are quite excited about what's happened at Wrexham, but Wrexham were a long way off Birmingham, Ben, and I'm struggling to think of a more Championship-ready League One title-winning squad than the one that's just come up, because there were question marks over some of our players, Ben, believe it or not, when we went up, and we looked a little bit lost in the first 25 minutes or so away at Sunderland, didn't we, before we grew into the game and then finished really strongly. So yeah, definitely a team to watch this season, Ben, and they've been, as you've already alluded to in this show, they've been pretty busy in the transfer market. I'd completely forgotten that Damari Gray has gone back there. He's still only 29, Ben.
Yeah,
and they've dipped into the European market for a couple of strikers as well.
Yeah, and it's easy to look on with envy because I think it's 9, but I think if you're making the direct comparison to us, we're in a very different position where this is squad maintenance and we've invested the big money last year, whereas Birmingham, it's almost like, right, here we go, let's build some assets, have a good crack at this with a fair wind, and think about the PSR on the back end if it doesn't work out, with presumably a load of assets in there. But let me have a look down their squad here. So Beadle, Clara, Neumann, Bright Asai, Samuel, Tommy Doyle, that's a really good signing. Fujimoto, who else has come in? Furuhashi, Damari Gray, like you say. I think that's all 9. And this Duksh lad, Marvin Duksh, has come in from Bundesliga in the past couple of days.
Yeah, a pretty tasty looking squad that's been assembled. But do you think that the starting lineup against us will actually be probably more of the same of the players that came up from League One, or do you think that a lot of these players will drop straight in, Ben? I know this isn't an easy one to answer because there isn't a huge amount of history for this manager.
I've written it down. Don't worry.
There we go.
I think 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 debutants. I think we'll get tomorrow. Do you want me to completely mark your card?
Yeah, go on, Ben. Why not?
Yeah. So I've got Allsop in goal. I've been told Bright Asai Samuel, and you might like this, Town fans, who was a winger at QPR, is now a fullback and will play as an orthodox right back in a 4-2-3-1 in the same way and on the same side as Leif Davis does. So the game could literally be won or lost on that side. Whoever gets caught with their pants down up the pitch there is going to have a very good attacking fullback marauding into space behind them. So we're expecting Neumann and Clara as the centre backs. Cochrane is the kind of meat and potatoes on the other side. We're expecting it to be Pike and Iwata, who played together in League One, and yeah, they're getting lots of love in the chat there. Doyle will be like more a number 8 rather than a number 10 in the front. And my spies tell me Damari Gray will play right, Keshi Anderson left with Jay Stansfield in the number 9, kind of running behind, and that Furuhashi and Duksh will likely be used off the bench. I could be wrong, but that's my take. So it's not a complete new BRUM, but it's not like us where it was pretty much Pladke changed the keeper and George Hurst was permanent, and away you go.
Yeah, that was literally it. That's what I was about to say, and that works well for us. But Birmingham obviously go down a slightly different route. Do you think they'll transition tactically? Do you think playing at home against a team that's just been relegated from the Premier League, are they going to sit back, Ben, or are they just going to go for the throat, aren't they, straight from the off?
Yeah, of course they are. Yeah, so they were very smart, and we tried in League One to do it all with a hybrid Championship Premier League style, and then McKenna, we all know he just had to adapt at the back end of his first full season, and we did have to kick it in the channels now and then, and learn how to run and learn how to fight as well as the nice football. Birmingham were very patient last year. If you look, they didn't just kick it in the box and realize they had really good attackers against League One defenders and score loads of goals just on individual quality, which then doesn't translate up a level. It's not viable. You can't, well, unless you sign an entire set of new players, you can and do exactly the same thing. We'll see if that works over at Wrexham, won't we? But no, you would expect the patterns of play are locked in. And I mean, I suppose this is great for the competitive tension in the Championship, that as well as Birmingham, you'd expect Wrexham and Charlton to be fairly aggressive and go for teams. And unless we do get 3 year one parachute teams just piling on the points, then I think teams will go for us. But then, Mikey, you've got the intangible of it being the opening night. The Premier League hasn't started. It's on TV. It's at Knighthead Park, and I just think they're going to go for it, aren't they?
Yeah, I'm going to this one with a little bit of trepidation, to say the least, Ben. And yeah, as I say, not an atmosphere that we'll have experienced in recent times. Maybe one to compare it to was when we went up to Sunderland on the opening day, although that was a Sunday afternoon. We've got a Birmingham City fan in the chat.
I know, John. He's sane, don't worry. Yeah.
Okay, but John's missed some of your fantastic Birmingham analysis. I was hoping you'd be in the chat ready to contradict you. Yeah.
It's all nicked from him, so don't worry about that.
Oh, okay. Well, and if you were to pinpoint a player or a couple of players, Ben, or something that Ipswich need to be really worried about from this Birmingham team, what would you say it is?
Well, there's 2 or 3. I mean, we know we've played against Stansfield before, haven't we? So we know his ability to just be an absolute bloody nuisance and stick on the shoulder and run in behind. And hopefully we're going to have the ball and we're going to move the centre-backs up, and that will open up the space there. Like you said, if we get Damari Gray, who's played 200 Premier League games, he's going to be a danger off the right. And we hope we get a slightly tired Damari Gray, who's been playing in Saudi and, maybe has forgotten what the Championship's like week in, week out. And we all saw Doyle play for Sheffield United, didn't we? So those 3 are, really big quality. And all the BRUM fans tell me that Iwata and Pike are just very good South Korean and Japanese lads in central midfield. But yeah, I mean, just based on what I've seen before, Doyle could be very good. And if there's an area that may be slightly underprepared, it is our central midfield now, with Morsey having gone off to Q8 and, Luongo's no longer at the club. And, it'll likely be Jack Taylor, won't it? And Mutasiwa. So, yeah, they might have the run on us in the opening 20 minutes in that position.
So it almost is similar to our first game in the Championship at Sunderland a couple of years ago. We might need to ride an early storm and just try and quieten the home fans down as much as we can, and then just try and find our way into the game. But we'll have a few players we're looking forward to getting out there and competing in the Championship again, and one or two definitely with a point to prove as well. Gray looks the real deal, apparently.
Oh yeah, whatever. They're among the most optimistic fans in the known universe, and I get it when you've just scored 111
they've
points.
got to be. They've absolutely got to be at the moment. Because Birmingham have been. Let's not forget they've been through some
same as
horrible
us.
times. Yeah,
they've been crap for. We were exactly the same. We were like Mikey on this podcast. Just give us one good season. That's all we want. Give us. And what happened when we had one good season? We got another one straight away.
Yeah. So that's what they'll be. That's what they'll be hoping for.
But no. Your question is a very pertinent one about us having players with lots of stuff to prove, and we've had players that have lost a lot of games that were acknowledged as the worst in the division they were in, who are now all going to be acknowledged as the best in the division they're in, and they're going to want to prove that, aren't they?
Yeah, absolutely. Before we start talking a little bit more about the match itself, go on, Ben, if you want to bring this one in.
Oh no, carry on, mate. I'm just throwing random comments up on the screen.
Absolute chaos here in the pre-match. I'm going to go to our sponsors, Ben.
Blue Monday is brought to you in partnership with Atwell Solicitors, your ideal legal partner for property and business law. Whether you're buying a home, starting a business, or just need legal guidance, our dedicated team has got you covered. Trust our award-winning customer service team to handle your legal matters with care and expertise. Find out more at atwells.com or visit us at our offices in Ipswich, Colchester, London, and our new location in Woodbridge.
Thank you very much to Atwell Solicitors for continuing their Blue Monday sponsorship into this season, and One Stop Badges, sponsors of the Prematch Show as well. Can you see that one, Ben? If I bring it up close enough, that's a Blue Monday badge that they've made for us. It's an absolute stunner. Please approach David Diamond wherever you see him in Suffolk and ask him for a badge from One Stop Badges. And speaking of David Diamond, he's going to be back on Sunday, I believe, on the flagship show alongside you, Ben. Is that right?
Yeah, I will be here on Sunday. But Mikey, before then, if you do sign up for Blue Monday Top Tier, which is our new subscriber YouTube account, so if you can do it right now. If you click sign up down there or whatever it says on YouTube, you can join. And this is exclusive content. It is behind a paywall there, but we think the quality is going to be great. We have got a kind of predictions-y, preview-y thing from George and Henry, who you will have met on two of the live streams this week. We've got the first blog from the great Kev Ellis has gone up, and we've got Jack, who's got a brilliant Substack as well. He's going to be writing for us on Sunday. And then we've got our data bods on Monday. Oscar and Adam are going to be having a look at the game, but not through our layman's eyes. They're going to be looking at all the numbers and all of the data. So it's something we've wanted to do for a while, Mikey. Really go for an entire suite, so to speak, of Blue Monday content. Fear not, the stuff you've always got for free will always be free. That being the flagship every Sunday and the pre-match every Thursday. And just because people don't like change, we thought we'd give you another free show this year as well, just to soften the blow of those people who maybe don't like the idea of the paywall content. Craig's doing a news show each and every, it'll be kind of on rotation when we get 3 game weeks on Tuesdays as well. So go ahead and sign up. And thank you to the lots of people who have done already, Mikey.
Yep. Thank you very much to everyone that's joined us. Some fantastic content there. But as Ben says, nothing really changes. If you don't sign up for it, you're still going to get the usual Blue Monday offering. So yeah, back into Birmingham City on Friday night. Birmingham's pre-season, Ben, I don't read too much into pre-season. I doubt that you do. It's getting players fit. Birmingham mostly playing against EFL clubs. They did beat Nottingham Forest last week. but they were also beaten by Burton, and a sort of Birmingham City 11 were beaten at Northampton. But I can't imagine they'll be too worried about that. Can you remember our pre-season, Ben, in between League One and the Championship? Actually, it might have been when we won the Meppen Cup or whatever it was called. But sort of besides the point, not a huge amount to read into it, Ben, is there?
I agree with you. I know it's a kind of quick, short talking point, but no, I mean, I always give the example of the season under Mick where we went off to Charlton and lost 6-1 or 5-1 and then won the first, very luckily, albeit won the first 5 games of that season, and we were top of the league. So for us this season, the real quiz is, well, there's 2 things to hit. There's the transfer window ending and hopefully not getting caught in that year 1 parachute churn and getting to that first international break towards the start of September. That's the real quiz, and then you just go into the grind, don't you, through the autumn, and no one's going to be wondering what anybody did, particularly in pre-season fixtures. Then we really learn everything at those points. I know it's a bit of a cop-out answer, but it's the truth.
That's a shame, Ben. I was hoping you were going to talk me through their game against Northampton, but we'll have to move on. We like to look at the history as well, Ben. That probably actually doesn't have a huge impact on what's going to happen on Friday night either. But Innsbruck Cup, that's what it was.
Don't we suck away at Birmingham, by the way?
Yes. So,
yeah.
Interestingly, 36 games won, 19 draws and 30 losses. So we do have the edge historically, but I imagine almost all of those wins came at Portman Road, because in my lifetime, Ben, and maybe even in your lifetime, it took Mick McCarthy's first game in charge for us to win at Birmingham City, and we haven't managed it since. DJ Campbell on the score sheet that day, but I imagine the most evocative game for you, Ben, Birmingham City away. I think I've even heard you talk about this one. The Worthington Cup semi-final second leg.
Oh, God, the sandy pitch.
Yeah, the pitch that they destroyed with hot air blowers, and Richard Wrights let one go under his legs.
Oh.
And Andy Johnson scored the winner. I think there was a pitch invasion for every single goal in that game, even the Ipswich one, where James Scowcroft put us back in control of the tie. But yeah, probably the atmosphere might be a little bit more joyful maybe than intimidating tomorrow night, but who knows?
I also remember, I think it was the run-in against Paul Jewell's Bradford, and we went there on a Sunday, and one of the big lines I always remember from the years of this podcast is you saying, Ipswich in a big game, bottle it.
Not good.
And that's changed over the last couple of years.
Yeah.
Well, that changed at Barnsley, didn't it, a couple of years ago? But I'll always remember that because we were on our own playing on Sunday. Someone correct me in the chat. I think Bradford drew with Oxford the previous day, and it was a real shock. They dropped points. You know, when you get to the end of the season and nobody can win because everyone's just too nervous. And then I believe Brian Hughes, Welsh midfielder, jinked around and we lost 1-0. And it was maybe we lost that infamous game to Crewe the week before, or maybe I'm conflating about 3 different seasons there, but
I think you're right, Ben. Weird little thing that I remember from that game, that the referee wasn't happy with Ipswich's socks, so he had to wear Birmingham's away socks, and it might have even been the first game after Sir Ralph Ramsey passed away as well. It was on Sky, so the memories are slightly more evocative.
Yeah, I was at the game.
I was watching it round a friend's house. I would have been pretty young, but yeah, it's amazing what you remember from those days. Trevor Francis assisted by Mick Mills. Wow, Mick Mills.
And yeah, if you want a Belsterbrook Hotel story, that season I was working for the home game, and I do remember they just had a massive classic championship sort of. I remember Paul Furlong. Remember David Holdsworth asking me to get some Tabasco. I distinctly remember that happening in 1998 or whatever we're talking. Not Dean Holdsworth. More from him in a couple of years' time, but David Holdsworth. But look, it's all memories, and just 2 clubs transformed by takeovers meeting on, as colleagues on fairly even pegging, isn't it?
Yeah, and it's good. These are good times for both of our clubs. Really, it might seem a little bit strange to say that after we've just been relegated, but we're in a good position, aren't we? We're going into a season a lot of fans are expecting promotion, so this is a good part of the history of recent history of Birmingham and Ipswich Town. But yeah, I know that their fan base, having watched the first episode of the documentary, they're big believers in curses. So yeah, maybe they'll believe that they've got one on us because of the head-to-head record at St Andrews at least. But yeah, I'm waffling away here, Ben. Let's actually get back into the
Can I just do a little teaser? If you're really lucky on the flagship, I can do a whole story here about that documentary, why I'm not in it, and Jake Humphreys. I can link all three. You'll know the reason why. I can link all three together. Maybe we'll do that on Sunday. Before you ask your next question, is a huge thank you to Richard down there, $9.99 on the super chat. Tom Brady knocked my team out of the playoffs in the NFL for nearly 2 decades. I cannot escape this man. Nothing but hate from me. He's like the ultimate jock in a American teenager. He'd be a villain, wouldn't he? Just the handsome quarterback guy who just beats everybody the whole time. And smug about it as well. I know he's got a lot to be smug about.
In his white jeans and sunglasses and peace signs and all of that. Yeah, he's a bit of a caricature, isn't he? But
he's aging well, though, isn't he?
No, he is. Yeah, to be fair. Yeah, don't feel like I'm going the same way, unfortunately.
He's just a kid, mate. So good luck with that. Yeah.
Tom Brady's probably got about 6 though. But you've talked about the Birmingham City lineup, and you've talked about where the potential dangers are. How do you see Town lining up for this one, Ben? Is there anything that suggests that Kieran McKenna might slightly change the shape at some point this season, or are you just expecting that usual 4-2-3-1?
I'm expecting the usual 4-2-3-1, and if you're in the chat right now, stick your 11s in there. There's always been an argument that, if you're against Doyle and Iwata and Paik, and Doyle's not exactly a 10, that do you drop a third midfielder in? But we don't have one at the moment, and he just never does that, McKenna. So I put this in the Telegram this morning, and the kind of general comments I got back was this, Mikey. And again, stick your 11s in the chat. But Palmer in goal, Johnson and Davis fullbacks, could be Clark, I guess. O'Shea and Greaves, centre backs. Taylor and Mutasiwa, I'd be incredibly surprised if they're really playing silly beggars with us if Chaos starts, because that means he's probably been here a couple of days and they just announced it late. Clark, that's Smodix, and we're not expecting Philogene, so probably Broadhead, and George Hurst up top. But yeah, I mean, I can see that's George in the chat. You wouldn't, if you want experience and a level head, stick Ashley Young in at right back. Yeah, I totally agree with that as well.
I could see Young.
Sorry, Clark, they just corrected me in the chat there. Sorry, Mikey.
Yeah, Clark is injured, so it will be Greaves shifting across to left back, and we might see Kit Bray at centre back if Leif Davis is injured. But I don't think he is. I think he's going to play. I could see I don't think Broadhead will start. I think Chaplin might start in the 10 with Smodix and Jack Clark either side. I mean, that doesn't really suit both of them because they both will want to play slightly off the left or even in the 10. But I think that's how it's going to be. But yeah, aside from that, it's going to be Taylor and Matasiwa in the central midfield position. But then it would be interesting to see if Kayusti doesn't make the squad. Are we going to see Barbara at some point, or are we going to see or maybe even Humphreys? We are pretty light in that position. Here's a Birmingham 11 from John Morrell. How different is that to yours, Ben? Is it exactly the same?
Exactly the same. And you can see me on the Keep Right On podcast whenever they put that out with the excellent Alex Dickin over there. Yeah, we're all agreeing basically that I don't mind Ashley Young starting. I think that might be quite sensible, mightn't it? So I don't mind that
I quite
at all.
like that. Yeah.
Even on the left wing as well, a few people have mentioned just in terms of getting some leadership. If we're sitting here saying it's going to be feral in Nighthead tomorrow night, then get Ashley Young to win you a free kick in interesting circumstances when you need a little bit of a break there. But I take your point about Chaplin as well. But this has been grinding my gears that all of these people who patronised us saying, "Oh, they've just signed a Championship All-Star team in the Premier League." Well, are you going to acknowledge now that it's a Championship All-Star team then and play? Get Smodics in the 27-goal guy, get him as near to the goal as you possibly can because he'll score goals. He'll score goals at this level.
Yeah, and to be honest, Ben, I actually thought that Smodics was becoming more and more important to us last season, and then he got the injury at quite an unfortunate time, and then it looked like we just protected him towards the end of the season rather than bringing him back in to play in those dead rubbers. I think we just looked after him, and hopefully he's coming back absolutely fit and firing. And it certainly looks like George Hurst is fit and firing and ready to go. So that's going to be an interesting one.
Can he be fit for 35 games though, please, Mikey?
Just getting him into that first game, Ben, at the moment is enough for me because he didn't quite make it last year against Liverpool, and he looked really fit and strong in pre-season last year as well, and he just didn't quite get there. But yeah, he's still a fairly young man. He might have turned a corner in that, but yeah, hopefully we're going to have some backups. But yeah, you do slightly worry what our team is going to look like at the end of the game, Ben, if Hurst is coming off at 70 minutes, and we know how important the last half an hour of the championship game is. Is that the way you
bring Chuba Akpom in, Mikey?
I don't see it. I think it's going to be Ali Al-Hamadi coming off the bench in the central forward position, isn't it? And yeah, Barbrook or Humphreys in central midfield. Don't know. Who knows? We don't know what the game is going to look like. I'll push you for a prediction, Ben, a little bit later on. But yeah, please get your questions in the
Mikey,
chat.
Quickly, sorry, fella. Can I just push back to you? There's a few people raising Amari Hutchinson, and I mean, maybe you'll say to me there's no chance of him playing, but I didn't think there was any chance of James Ward-Prowse playing for Southampton for that one game in the Championship. And it could be. We know McKenna can be pretty ruthless when he wants to, and he could literally say to him, "Mate, you can have your move, but while you're here, you're playing."
Yeah,
and deal with it and
be a
pro.
He's such a forward thinker, though, and I don't know. Like there was times at the end of last season when Delap was getting taken out because he was looking ahead to the following season. I don't know, but we don't know what the conversations between, because it might just be the official line that Hutchinson wasn't in a fit position to go, so he's there. But it might be them protecting him for the move. There might have been a breakdown in the relationship there, or there might not have been. And yeah, it could be the perfect secret weapon at St Andrews on Friday night, Ben. And we see Willie Nonto played against us for Leeds a couple of seasons ago, and as Henry and Craig mentioned in the pod the other night, he's still there now, which I mean, it would be nice if that happened with Amari Hutchinson. It feels pretty unlikely though.
And Mikey, I covered Blackburn Derby, the first Championship game of last season, and it was Smodics isn't training with the first team, and he clearly had an agreement with John Eustace, literally as the clock hit like 70 minutes or whatever, it was 75, someone will look it up, that it was, you can do 20 minutes for us. So, they could do it. They could do it that way around. And if what you're saying, mate, is correct, that you're going to end up with maybe Al-Hamadi, which is, not the first choice solution, or young Barbrook, then what's the worst thing? I mean, the worst thing that can happen is Hutchinson gets a really horrible injury and the move's off and everybody loses out essentially in that scenario. But, do you want more good players or less good players in your squad to make it very binary?
Yeah, don't get me wrong, Ben. I want to see Amari Hutchinson on that pitch tomorrow night, 100%. I just don't think it will happen. I think that we've got enough in those attacking areas for it not to need to happen. We both had slightly different front fours there, didn't we? So that points to the fact that we do still have options, even without Akpom in the building, as it were.
Has anything happened on Twitter yet? No pictures of Chuba Akpom holding up a shirt or diverting from Birmingham or Middlesbrough or wherever he ended up from Amsterdam.
Yeah, haven't seen anything yet.
The chat hasn't gone mad, put it that way anyway.
No, but speaking of the chat, please get your questions in.
I was on a Leeds podcast as they signed Joel Piroe, and I realised I became quickly irrelevant in that discussion.
Well, that was before the 4-3 game, wasn't it? When Piroe
it would have been the week before, wouldn't it? Yeah, we probably previewed that game, to be fair.
When they had a bit of a slow start to the season, I think they lost at Birmingham on the opening day, didn't they?
Yes, or maybe round 2. I can't remember exactly.
Yeah. Well, the documentary made it look like it was.
You're probably right. Yeah, you're probably right.
And then, they just decided to go out and buy the top goal scorer from the Championship the previous season. But yeah, John Morrell is saying, don't want to see Amari Hutchinson tomorrow night. I won't lie. Yeah, he is a player to be feared. I think Henry said he'd be the best player in the division. I know that there's a lot of players that you're pretty fond of in the Championship, Ben, but he wouldn't be far off it, would he? Especially with the impact that he had in the under-21s during the summer.
Yeah, it's difficult. It's like define best, isn't it? But if best is who could be sold now for the most amount of money, well, maybe Dibbling might beat him on that. But I think in careers so far, I think Dibbling's excellent. I think Hutchinson's probably pipping him. Look, we can get caught up in top 3s and top 5s and who's this, that, or the other. What Amari Hutchinson is a gigantic asset either on the pitch or on the balance sheet for Ipswich Town this season.
Yeah. In the absence of questions from the chat, Ben, shall we?
I think there was one in there. There you go. You can answer that, Mikey.
Who's the number 8 shirts? Oh, that's an easy one. That's Hackney when the Premier League move doesn't come in, he'll.
So what's that in the distance? That's the Hackney ship sailing away into the distance, Mikey.
Yeah, that's an unfortunate one, but I'm sure there's plenty of other players that can score 20 goals from midfield in the Championship. That
what happened to Brownhill? Did he re-sign with Burnley? Speaking of midfielders, you score loads of goals.
No, I thought he went somewhere else.
You keep talking, and I'm going to look it up.
He maybe went to Leicester or something like that.
Josh Brownhill is down as a free agent on FootMob, but
okay. There's your answer then. There's our new number.
24 goal contributions from 6, 8, 10. That averages at 8, doesn't it? Last season.
Yeah, I wouldn't read too much into that vacant number 8 shirt because Kuyusti quite clearly likes the number 12. The number 12 because he had it last season. He's picked it up this season. It's not that uncommon for us to have one of the 1 to 11 shirts without a player attributed to it. But yeah, Tyler Roberts has been linked with us in the chat now, Ben.
Can I just say, Tyler Roberts scored one of the best Championship goals I have ever seen, but you can credit Marcelo Bielsa rather than Tyler Roberts for the goal. Neil, Mikey asks, did we do a deal with BRUM to announce Akpom after the game in return? There's been so many conspiracy theories about this. And as I always say, Mikey, football fans will take credit for anything. So the Birmingham fans are going to call this a moment of genius if we don't get him over the line. And we'll call it a moment of genius if we do. But there are 46 games in a Championship season, and Chuba Akpom can be very useful for 45 of them, even if he's not ready for the first one.
Yeah, I've got a question for you now, Ben. From our era, what midfielder do you think would add the most to Ipswich at present?
Well,
in the current system,
Jim Magilton probably. It's so difficult though because Jim Magilton, you're apples and oranges, aren't you? In terms of can you have a player that doesn't particularly run and just stands there making the play? And pinging the ball around in today's modern era. But yeah, a playmaker, that sort of player. But then talking about a number 8 shirt, you put Matt Holland in any team in any era,
Yeah,
then
that's more of a sensible question. Actually, is it the goal scoring that we need, or is it the playmaking that we really need? Because Hayden Hackney was a little bit of a unicorn in that respect, wasn't he? Because he is a playmaker, but he also became a goal scorer midfielder. Neil Wilmore's said Miller. That's the player I'm thinking of. If you're just looking at basic numbers in the Championship, Tommy Miller's your guy.
Do you know the player I think of as soon as you say that? And you won't want to sign him because it's Matt Crooks who's at Hull at the moment. I'm trying to think of a player who's literally just a finisher. Joins in a bit in midfield, but just arrives in the box and finishes, which is what Miller used to do. The point I was going to make, Mike,
Kevin Nolan did for West Ham. When he dropped down.
Nobody better. Yeah. No, the point I was going to make was, do we need goals from central midfield in a Kieran McKenna setup? You almost don't, do you? Come from the wings, they come from the 10 position, and at Championship level, they came from set plays. So, yeah, and if we can be as bold to plan for if we do get promoted, we're not going to be thinking about goal scoring central midfielder. We just want someone physical who's good at defending, don't we? So, it depends what you're optimizing for here.
Yeah, I just think with the two midfielders that we've brought in a player that's a bit of a destroyer and a really good athlete in the middle who's also a good passer. And then we've got this languid, stylish player that can just turn a man in the middle of the park or take the ball under pressure and then just bring you up 30, 40 yards up the pitch. And then I see Jack Taylor as the player that we brought in to maybe be a bit of box to box, a bit of physicality, but also there to take shots from the edge of the box. And if it's Taylor that we're looking to upgrade on, I think goals are fairly important.
He's got a great long range shot as well.
He has, Taylor, but he hit it pretty well at times last season. But yeah, hopefully. But Jack Taylor is one of the players that we mentioned. He's really got a point to prove tomorrow night, and he can earn that shirt with a good performance in the first few weeks of the season.
We see tomorrow.
It's almost certainly his to lose. So, yeah, if Jack Taylor thunders one in tomorrow night, I'll be over the moon for him, and it would solve quite a few problems for us as well if he can really reach the level that we hope that he would in the first year in the Championship. And he did show signs of it, and yeah, it does feel like he's been written off a little bit, but he's ours and he's probably here to stay. So. Yeah, fingers crossed that he's one that surprises us, because we've had plenty of other midfielders in recent years that have surprised us one way or the other.
And Mikey, we've all seen the classic example of a player that we thought was just done in Cladkey, who, like, on the eve of the season is surplus to requirements. He's one of your star players. And how many times on this podcast did we sell Caden Jackson over the years as well?
Yeah.
So you do get those, Jano Danasian as well. You do get those players who just hang around and be useful.
Absolutely. Right, Ben, let's bring it back round for the big game on Sky Sports main event. It will be main event, won't it? This is the bit where
the time for talking is over.
Yeah, we get. Hopefully, Ipswich will plant their flag on St Andrew's turf. The Premier League parachute boys have parachuted down onto the pitch.
Oh, stop it. It's all been written out already.
Ben, I'm worried that you're going to predict Ipswich not to win, because I'm going to predict Ipswich not to win.
Oh, are you? So, well, I'll predict Ipswich to win then. So, Sam Parkin, the awful turncoat, former Ipswich striker, predicted a 1-0 Birmingham win yesterday on the Benjamin Bloom football channel. I predicted, and I've done this on a few podcasts, and I'm allowed multiple predictions. People ask me. I predicted a 1-1 and a nice tight 2-shot. You'll like this with your TV head on, of Chris Davis and Kieran McKenna shaking hands, looking each other in the eye and saying, "See you at Easter." Yeah, I think there's more to come. But I'll make another prediction, and I'll go for Ipswich then to win 2-1. Maybe Town will take the lead and Birmingham will equalise and get really raucous and awkward in the second half, and then we'll go into 23-24 mode, and whenever it's a coin flip game, just win randomly. So there you go. Are you happy with that? 2-1 Ipswich.
Cool, I'll be over
Get your predictions in the chat, by the way.
Yeah, they have been. I'm predicting Ipswich to lose this one 2-1, Ben. I think we're going to really struggle. We're really going to struggle with the start, I think. And
you've already triggered the whole chat by not saying Jens Kayuste is as good as Roy Keane. Come on, Mikey.
Yeah. Sorry, Ben. Yeah, I'm sticking with it. A 2-1 defeat. I'd love to be proved wrong, especially as
everyone stopped listening when you said Ipswich were going to lose, Mikey.
Great. But yeah, it looks like most people in the chat are predicting an Ipswich win. What did the Birmingham fans say? His head says 1-1. Okay,
there you go.
David Bergen's with me.
Well, what are you crowing about, hey? That's not the real quiz, is it? But no, look, without sounding like a complete Alan Partridge quote, could I see the crowd being feral, Birmingham momentum, and then winning the game? Yes. Could I see it being really tight and shake hands on a draw? Yes. Could I see Ipswich showing up properly with a U1 parachute squad and winning and making a statement? Yes. All of the above. We have no evidence. We haven't seen these teams play for 2-3 months now, and it's just going to be fascinating. And you know what it's like. As soon as it kicks off tomorrow, we'll all be into that mode, and I intend to be there tomorrow night at Knighthead Park, Trillion, St Andrews, whatever we're calling it today.
Absolutely, Ben. I think what Rich and Seb normally do is close out the show. Somebody says, "Come on, you Blues." Are you going to do that, Ben, and I'll press the buttons, or are you going to leave that to me?
Well, the only issue I don't want to do is I don't want to just be a bad version of Rich and Seb's show. So I think we should do our own thing, and I think you should say, "Be careful what you wish for."
It's been a while, hasn't it?
Well, it has. And I'm being childish here and pleasing myself, but it always makes me laugh. Why don't you say thank you, Mikey, to all the wonderful people who've been in the chat, triggered or not triggered, and all the wonderful people who've signed up to Blue Monday Top Tier already?
Yeah, thank you very much, guys. And yeah, be careful what you wish for.